You are listening to Down Home.
While the Underground Railroad pointed north, there was another route to freedom, south into Mexico. After winning independence from Spain in 1821, Mexico passed what historians describe as radical anti-slavery laws. And Mexicans at every level of society were serious about enforcing them. Even earlier, under Spanish rule in New Spain, American runaways were often granted asylum by Spanish authorities, setting a powerful precedent. The movement south was small but still significant. Mexico offered something rare: legal freedom, protection, and the chance to start over. This is the route to freedom you probably never learned about. I'm Derek Wise, and on behalf of Jay Jones, welcome to Down Home, the Canadian experience by two black men.
Breaking new ground, 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 breaking new ground.
All right, so this subject was kind of born out of our trip that we took into Mexico. Summertime, huh?
Yeah, man.
I don't know about you, but the just being in Merida and seeing like the population there, everyone, it's not exactly diverse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it got me thinking, what is the history of the Mexican people when it comes to slavery? Because slavery was a present force all around the world, and being so close to the southern states, of course there must have been some overlap there as well, right?
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
Oh man, to go to Mexico and even talk about some of the things that we did talk about while we were there, and these subjects. Coming home and realizing we're doing this, to brainstorm this as an episode, I didn't realize that the connection between Mexican sort of lore and slavery, it's a lot. There's a lot of things here that I had no idea about. So good on you for picking this, because it forces you to go down to the rabbit hole of what did exist. Because like you say, slavery was everywhere, and Mexico was no different, but Mexico was different,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the Spanish were quite prolific when it came to the slave trade. But it's interesting though. Like I was reading a bit more about the Spanish and their slave trade, and how they once the black people got to the Caribbean and the part of North America which is now Mexico, the treatment of the black people was slightly different. Like and the reason why there was an underground railroad south
Yeah.
was because of the difference in the treatment of black people from the area that is now Mexico and the southern states.
Yeah, man. It's one of the main reasons why word got around, because Mexico treated their slaves different. They were actually allowed to be free, basically. Now, they were considered, but you had to do two things. You had to sort of give your loyalty to the Spanish government, and you were considered not property, but sort of like a
Indentured servitude.
Yeah,
More akin to
basically.
that.
Yeah. And, there were some accounts of okay, before I jump ahead of myself, there was a woman named Alice Baumgartner. She was a Rhodes Scholar, and she was doing some research, and she stumbled upon some stuff that concerned sort of slave catchers and Mexican people, often violent occasions between the two because of the southbound Underground Railroad. Now, it was pretty modest compared to the people who fled north, probably around 3,000 and 10,000, 3,000 to 10,000, maybe 30,000 people tried to escape to Mexico, compared to the 30,000, 100,000 who fled north. So, word got around that it was a safe haven. So she came up with, she was like, why were people going to Mexico? And she just started to discover that it had this history of a lot of fugitive slaves making their way across the Rio Grande to Mexico.
Yeah, definitely. And there is the possibility that the numbers along the southern Underground Railroad are quite modest because, like, when you think about it. When you're going north, right, from the slaveholding states of the South, you eventually hit the free states before you get to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a buffer. So you get to a point where there is a tiny bit of freedom, even though you might be pursued by slave catchers, but there's a tiny bit of freedom so that these people that were traveling along the Underground Railroad could share their stories, write articles, and things of that nature. But on the southern border, there was no buffer.
Exactly.
So they had to keep it on the down low, right?
Yeah. So there's some differences. Yeah, there were no conductors.
Yeah.
Like there was one man who I just want to bring up. His name is Nathaniel Jackson. He was a white man from Alabama. Mm-hmm. He actually married a slave that he freed. So they decided to make their way to Texas back in wagon covered times and stuff like that, and he established the Jackson Ranch. So it became a safe haven it was very close to the Rio Grande, and that was probably the safest place. But there were many different routes. But there was a lot of different things between the South and the North. The North, often they traveled by foot.
Yeah.
And they usually were unarmed, but they got guidance from the conductors who usually had weaponry. Harriet Tubman was known to carry a rifle, but in the southern states, sometimes if you went by foot, you were really going through craziness because of the geography and the elements and how hot it was. Like you're going down into San Antonio and Texas, scarce water scarcity and stuff like that. But other routes, they stole horses and armed themselves and actually fought and for the freedom, and they do whatever necessary because they could hunt as well and different things like that if they had these resources with them. Before I just want to say one last thing. The Mexicans often helped. The other thing they did is they often helped and fought off mobs to the slave catchers who would sometimes try to come and get back their so-called property. But some of these slaves that came into Mexico, they set up shop. They became important members of the families in Mexico.
Right.
So Mexicans were often, if they would get kidnapped, they would get mobs together. Village people in the town would go pursue the slave catchers and sometimes kill them, or the Mexican authorities would jail them for a month and send them back empty-handed.
The way that Mexicans kind of traversed through colonialization, very different than the Americans and Canadians. Mm-hmm. Like once Mexico gained its independence, which was around 1829, I believe. 1829. Once they gained their independence from Spain, their view of number one slavery, at the time they passed some very stringent anti-slavery laws.
Yeah, they were radical at the time.
For the time, they were radical. Yeah. To understand the conflict between Mexico and the United States in the 19th century, you have to start with slavery. After independence from Spain, Mexico abolished slavery and expected the law to be enforced across its territory, including Texas.
which at the time was part of Mexico. When European settlers moved into Mexican Texas, many brought enslaved people with them and pushed back against Mexico's anti-slavery laws. What Mexico viewed as law, those settlers treated as an optional way of life. That tension exploded at the Alamo, a battle often framed as a fight for freedom, but it's actually a deeper dispute over the sovereign right to own slaves. Not long after, the United States annexed Texas, and the conflict widened. The US-Mexico War followed, and the United States ultimately took control of vast Mexican territories, what are now California, Arizona, and New Mexico. At its core, this wasn't just territorial expansion, it was a collision between two nations with fundamentally different views on slavery and freedom.
Yeah.
And it kind of bodes to their mindset when it comes to colonization. Like, and we've talked about this before. And like when it comes to colonization, like America and Canada, they kind of had an apartheid mindset. So like there wasn't much mixing between the white European populace and the slaves and stuff like. It was like okay, we're apart, we're different, right?
Yeah.
Where the colonialization concept in Mexico was in order to make a strong Mexico, everyone has to be what they considered Mexican, the indigenous population as well as European. So mixing amongst everyone was actually encouraged.
Yeah.
There is a term, and I understand that it's a bit derogative now. It's considered to be derogative, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean let's say what's out there. You know, there are many different names.
So in Mexico, it's not in the Mexican vernacular any longer. It's called mestizos.
Okay.
Which basically means mixed or racial mixing.
Okay.
So basically, this was adopted by the government and promoted ideology from the point that after the Mexican Revolution, straight up until around 1930, it got to the point where racial identity was almost nationalized, and we're saying it as well. Like when we're talking about Mexican, we're saying Mexicans.
Yeah,
and that comes with the connotation of in our mind what a Mexican looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And it definitely causes those stereotypes, right? You know.
Yeah, definitely. So there's positives and negatives to that. It does seem all inclusive, but what it ended up doing, it can be seen as negative because it's almost an erasure of the indigenous identity, indigenous languages.
Yeah.
Because you're all Mexican, you all speak Spanish and stuff like that, right? So there is a bit of a negative connotation in that sense.
Yeah. One of my biggest things is I didn't know this is as we talk about sort of everyone gaining their independence, there was also sort of the Texas Revolution that happened. And they say that this, and it had to do with the Louisiana Purchase and everything like that. And they say this could be the steps to lead to, which led to the Civil War. You know what
definitely.
I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you because like there were some prominent white European slave owners, like prominent landholders that once Mexico, and at that point Texas was part of Mexico.
Yeah. Once Texaco got its independence.
So they were part of Mexico. Texas was part of Mexico at that time.
Yeah.
And a lot of these powerful white European landowners did not like the fact that these quote unquote radical laws against slavery were being passed. And that probably had a lot to do with the reason why Texas succeeded away from Mexico.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I want to say. They actually ignored the laws that Mexico had set up, and they wanted to, when they came and settled, they actually wanted to give lifetime contracts to their slaves as a life of servitude.
Lifetime contracts.
But Mexico, and even the Spanish government, I think, they said to 10-year contracts. So the Anglo settlers, they were like, no. So they actually considered this oppressive and decided to start a revolt. So you see how this trickles into the road that led to the Civil War, which I did not, I mean, I knew it was about slavery, but I did not know sort of Mexico's radical sort of anti-slavery laws were such an uproar to the way things were and the economy and everything. It's just so intertwined. It's amazing. Like, believe it or not, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, man. Like it is definitely interesting how, well, we've talked about we've had episodes about how crucial the institution of slavery was to the economy of the southern states and America as a whole.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about governments coming along and saying, okay, you're no longer able to earn your money like this. This is what these wars were about.
Yeah. And it's crazy because in the Texas Revolution, they actually wanted to put slavery back into their constitution to make it so. So, when you sort of look at all these things that we've talked about many, many times, and it's still shocking and surprising each time how ensconced in law, and to separate it from the actual fact that these were Black American slaves and the brutality that they were put through is the fact that I think in some people's in America's mind, especially as opposed to Mexican views, is they actually just saw this as some sort of right. It wasn't even about people because blacks were already viewed as something other than already. So it just took into a different way of how, let's just make this, follow the money like we did in that episode. It was like, let's just make this a law so we can continue this empire. So it just makes what I found, I don't want to say angry, but what I found disappointing is the humanity of it all. And just based in law, you're viewed as something other than, and they can make it so. And you were people's property. So, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, Yeah.
Well, there you go. First episode.
Season 6.
My goodness, man. And just to let everyone know, Jay's going through some renovations. He's not tucked away in a corner somewhere else.
Yeah. New things, but looking forward to a new season. We got some good stuff planned, and it's good. Peace and love.
All right. See you next episode.
Word.
Breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking.
You have been listening to Down Home. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
On a high plateau, from the one down below to the future of the funk, getting lost in the flow. Contact with the spot magex. Now it's time to flex with the force from the soul, reaching all aspects, getting deep, no time to sleep. As you reach your next phase, laying it all on the line. New trail start to blaze, it's a fire inside. A brand new path, breaking down the sum to one. Feeling free, I just laugh with the joy of a beat boy, just kicking it.
The song, Breaking New Ground, from The Breakdown.
Only to see the perfect blend, like a diamond in the rough, ready to drop a perfect gem. It's time to shine, so fine to see what you find. Revolution.